right now. It's New York's #1 news with Bill Ritter and Sade Veteran-Wah and meteorologist Lee Goldberg with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Now, Eyewitness News at 5.
Violence and gunfire marring the start of the new school year. First in Georgia, where tonight 4 people are dead, 9 others injured after a shooting at a high school. The alleged gunman alive and in custody.
And here in New York, less than 24 hours before the start of classes, somebody fired a shot into a school in the Bronx, hitting a teacher right in the hand. Tonight, cops are desperately searching for that shooter on this, a day of gun insanity here and down south. And as it happens, New York City Schools Chancellor David Banks standing by right now in our studio, ready to discuss this gun madness and what it means for all the kids just starting to go to school.
Also breaking on this very busy Wednesday, part of the Queens Midtown Tunnel shut down as a drilling project is wreaking havoc with the evening commute.
If you want to create a hornet's nest on the east side of Manhattan, go ahead and close the Queens Midtown Tunnel in both directions just a few hours before the start of the evening rush.
We'll check in with Joe Torres on the ground and Shannon Stone in the sky in just a few minutes. And good evening at 5 o'clock. I'm Sade Veteran-Wah.
And I'm Bill Ritter. Again, we're going to get to that commuting mess in a moment, but we're going to begin tonight with the school violence and a heartbreaking scene at a school about 45 miles outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Students, as you can see on the football field, huddled in fear and heartbreak and prayer after 2 of their classmates and 2 of their teachers were killed. Several more were wounded.
Tonight, police say they've arrested the shooter, a 14-year-old student of the school. When will this epidemic ever end? Safan Kim is in the newsroom with the very latest. Safan?
Well, Bill and Sade, law enforcement officials say the shooter is a student at the school. At a media briefing moments ago, they say he will be charged with murder and will be charged as an adult. The horror unfolded at Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia, as you said, just about 45 miles outside of Atlanta, just as the new school year was getting back into swing. 4 people have been killed in the shooting and another 9 victims are in the hospital. All 9 victims were struck by gunfire. Investigators say it's still unclear who, if anyone, he was targeting or how many rounds he discharged. The suspect is in custody. He is being interviewed. The sheriff says he's talking to them. Cell phone video shows the chaotic moments after the shooter opened fire. Parents showed up in panic trying to get in touch with their kids. First responders raced to the scene. Students, as you mentioned, gathered on the football field just minutes after the gunfire rang out. One student said he heard multiple gunshots and screams coming from the classroom next door. And as students huddled together in the back of the room with the door locked, that student says someone pounded on the door saying, "Open up," before there were more gunshots and screams.
I never imagined that I would be speaking to the media in my career over something that happened today, the pure evil that happened today. I cannot thank the people behind me for the support they give me today, to give this office and give this staff. This hits home for me. I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system. My kids go to this school system. I'm proud of this school system. My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community, but I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county.
I said, "Son, please tell me you're joking." He said, "No, Mom, I'm not joking." He said, they're shooting in the school, and the shooter is right across the hall from me.
We went to the hallway that it happened in, and that's when I saw like my math teacher, and he was all covered. I saw blood everywhere.
Well, he was asked if the shooting is being investigated as a hate crime. The sheriff clarified, saying targeting students is a hateful act in his mind. He went on to say that we don't know why it happened yet. We may never know, he says. The shooter, he says, realized if he didn't surrender, he would have been fired upon by officers. How he obtained the firearm and how he got it into the school is still under investigation. Officials say they'll provide another update in a few hours. In the newsroom, Safan Kim, Channel 7, Eyewitness News. Back to you.
Keep us posted, Safan. Just heartbreaking. Meanwhile, a school shooting in our area on the eve of a new school year. A teacher in the Bronx now recovering after she was shot inside his classroom.
A bullet went flying right through a window on the 6th floor of MS 391, hitting the teacher in the hand.
More gun insanity. Eyewitness News reporter Janice Yu live in the Fordham Heights section with the very latest. Janice.
Well, Bill and Sade, this all happened just 24 hours before school starts here at MS 391. The teacher was inside the classroom preparing for the first day of classes when this happened. The NYPD does point out there will be extra security here tomorrow to make sure parents, staff, and students feel as safe as they can feel. The teacher, we're told, some good news, has already been treated and released from the hospital. Now, investigators say the teacher was in the classroom on the 6th floor of MS 391 when a bullet came flying through the window just before noon. The Bronx Borough president tells us the teacher was in the room with a coworker, and a safety officer is the one who called 911. That teacher was taken to St. Barnabas Hospital, treated, and released. Now, meantime, police are canvassing rooftops and looking for any video. They do believe the shot came from an elevated area somewhere near the school. But one parent tells us it's still concerning to hear this happen at her child's school, and she says she's not sure if her 6th grader will be going to his classes tomorrow.
I don't know, tomorrow he's going to come here. He's going to say, Ma, I don't want to go. Maybe the person will come after us.
He's a returning teacher. He teaches special ed. He loves MS 391, and as all teachers have been doing the last couple of days, he was setting up his classroom when it happened and didn't even realize that a bullet had grazed his hand until he looked down and saw that he was bleeding.
Well, let me be clear. This bullet was not fired from inside the school. And at this point of the investigation, we believe it was fired from a long distance away. The school was not targeted.
Well, police say if anyone has information or video or anything that can help them with this investigation, please contact them. Call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. Live in the Bronx, Janice Yu, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Janice, thank you. School security is top of mind every year, but taking on added significance because of today's events. And the man in charge of keeping safe all New York City public school students and teachers happens to be in our studios right now. David Banks, Chancellor of the biggest school system in the country, in a back-to-school town hall. And the timing? What students and parents need to know right now. We've got Eyewitness News anchors Charlene Alicott and Mike Marza leading the town hall.
Bill and Sade, what a day to be joined by Chancellor Banks. Thanks for your time tonight. So much to talk about as we make our way throughout the next few moments. But first up, I got to talk about what happened in the Bronx. If you're a parent or just a human, chills go down your spine with the headlines that happened today. First of all, how is the teacher doing in the Bronx? Have you had an opportunity to talk to him and see how he's holding up?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having us this evening and for presenting an opportunity to do this town hall. Mr. Colon, a teacher in the Bronx, I spoke to him just a short while ago. He's home. Thank God. It could have been a lot worse, but he's going to be just fine. He said, I can't wait to get back to school. But a random shooting, a random bullet that just flies through the window. He didn't even know that he was actually hit. He said he thought there was a socket that popped or something. Wow. And he was working with the paraprofessional in the classroom, preparing his class, just like all the other teachers across the entire city were doing, to get ready. But it could have been a lot worse, and thank God he's okay.
Especially to your point, Chancellor, when we think about 24 hours, less than 24 hours from that incident, that classroom would be filled with kids. Yes. When you think about what happened in the Bronx, when you think about what happened in Georgia, what do you tell the parents who are going to sleep tonight worried about sending their kids to school tomorrow?
Well, I don't want parents to be worried about sending their kids to school. You know, there are sometimes we find ourselves in unsafe situations. There are too many guns that are still out here on the streets. That's just a fact of the matter. But we have done a really good job in our schools of keeping our kids safe. And we've seen incidents drop since I even became chancellor in our school system. And many people know I used to be a school safety agent myself, and I come from a family of police officers. So safety is critically important to me. I understand it. We spend a lot of time and resources focused on it. And I want parents to know that while we are very concerned about what happened and what we're seeing even across the country, we're working very hard to ensure that your child is safe every day.
Right, but this is the very type of violence, Chancellor Banks, that parents are really concerned about, security. And so when it comes to cell phone use, a lot of parents are opposed to an all-out ban. And I know you have a stance on it. I know that you're very concerned about the negative impacts of cell phone use. So what do you feel we need to do moving forward for this new school year?
Well, listen, I certainly understand it. I appreciate as a parent and a dad of 4 children, I understand parents having that sense of anxiety and wanting to constantly be able to be in communication with their kids. Yeah. But we also recognize that there is a lot of data that tells us about the harmful effects every single day that access to these phones are having on our kids. I don't want our kids to not have their phones where they can be in communication with their parents as they go to school and as they go home from school.
Right.
But we still don't see the best reasons for them to have access to the phone during the school day. We still think the best way is to be in communication with the school whenever there's an emergency. And we still think that that is the best way to go. Now, we've not imposed a full-on cell phone ban. Most of our schools still have cell phones there. What we are doing, and we're saying tonight, we are strongly encouraging our schools to take a look at this and create ways to prevent kids from having cell phones while they're still in the class. They're distracting. We found that they presented lots of safety issues with cyberbullying, and we don't see any strong academic reasons for having the phones in the school. Now, we know people may not want to hear that tonight as we're hearing about some of these issues, but it's something that we're certainly saying to all of our school leaders. We want them to engage with their parents, their families, and their students to figure out the best ways to address this.
That conversation continues. Chancellor Banks, thank you. So much more to get to, including test scores, class sizes, all of that, as our town hall resumes in just moments at ABC7 in Y. Bill and Sade, we'll send it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mike and Shirley.
Really important, and really important stuff to get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Well, we want to turn now to that breaking news involving the evening commute, the Queens Midtown Tunnel.
All right, welcome into Back to School in our town hall discussion alongside Shirley and Alicott. I'm Mike Marza, joined by Chancellor David Banks on the eve of a new school year for 915,000 students. And you remember those times and just everything that goes along with it. By the way, we're also joined by our great panelist here of all the expertise that the DOE is putting forward this year. Chancellor Banks, thanks for coming here.
Well, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm happy to be here, joined by 4 of our deputy chancellors.
If you don't mind, let's go down the panel. Introduce yourself. Tell us what department you work for and what you're excited about for this new school year.
Donica Rux, Deputy Chancellor for the School of Leadership. And I am super excited this year. I'm a parent of an upcoming 6th grader who's getting ready to go to middle school. And so I'm just excited about the newness, her going into a new building, all of the great academic supports and programs that we have in our schools. She'll be able to be a part of them, and so will all of the other students in New York City. So we've done incredible work this year and cannot wait for our parents, our students, and the community to see all of the great work that we've put forth.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Christina Foti, Deputy Chancellor for the Division of Accessible Inclusive Learning. It's a new division that we formed on behalf of students with disabilities and multilingual learners. Most of all, I am so excited to be welcoming more preschoolers this year to their preschool classrooms, which we know they so badly need. And we've opened more autism programs than ever. And so as a special educator, this is exactly what I hope to be seeing, serving our students in high-quality programs, and I cannot wait to visit them tomorrow for their first day.
Hi, I'm Melissa Ramos, Deputy Chancellor for Family and Community Engagement. I am super excited to be here with my colleagues and talk about all the amazing things that we're doing to welcome back our children. And I'm a proud New York City Public Schools mom, so I'm just excited about my daughter going back to New York City Public Schools tomorrow.
10 years old, right?
10 years old.
All right, I know how that is. I got a 10, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
The parents are more excited than the kids.
Right.
They want to get these kids out of the house.
No doubt about
exactly.
that. And if you would like to introduce yourself, please, too.
Absolutely. Dan Weisberg, I'm the first Deputy Chancellor. Really excited to be here. And I'm the old guy, so my kids have already come through the New York City Public Schools, so I'm not getting their lunch boxes together and their book bags together, but still very excited. And probably most excited about New York City Reads, where we have all of our elementary schools. First time in history, I came up to the New York City Public Schools. It was every school, it was a crapshoot. Whether you're going to learn to read or not learn to read. We have first-class curriculum, well-prepared teachers, coaches, administrators, teaching kids to read using ways that we know work in all of our 843 elementary schools. It's the first time in history, folks, so I'm really excited about that.
Well, thank you all for being here. Let's jump right into this discussion, and let's pick up right where we left off just moments ago, cell phone usage in schools. This is a complicated issue, Chancellor, as we've talked about. And I think the best way to operate this is we'll toss you a question, and then if you would like to allocate to the great panelists here if need be. But I have to ask, because when we talked last week, you were really trying to weigh the benefits of what you do, whether you keep them out of the classroom in a certain way. It's such a vast system. You mentioned 78,000 classrooms in the system. Right. Logistically, as you move forward in this next year of assessment, what are you looking for to guide you a certain way on what to do? It's
a great question. First of all, I will tell you this. We have over 350 schools that already have a cell phone restriction policy. And we've got an additional 500, which are already planning to do it again for this year. So that represents more than half of our schools who've already made a commitment, whether or not we have a full-on cell phone ban, that they're moving forward. And they're doing it for all the right reasons, because it's good for kids. Cell phones have represented a real distraction in our schools. Our parents know it, and quite frankly, our kids know it as well. Dr. Vassan, the city's chief medical doctor, has made a very strong case for all the medical reasons and the health reasons and the negative effects that it has had on our kids as well. And from safety issues, particularly issues around cyberbullying. Most of our safety issues that we've had in our schools have happened right outside, right around the corner when school is over. And you know how kids know where to meet? Because they're communicating on their cell phones. I had one student say to us, Mike, I'm so glad that my school got rid of the phones, because now I actually talk to my classmates again. Kids are so addicted to these phones, and we're giving them a chance to give their brains a break. So no full-on cell phone ban, but we are going to be studying this. We're going to see if safety issues decrease. We're going to see if there's greater engagement. Over time, we think it'll affect academic performance. All those things take time, but we think for all the right reasons, it's worth looking at this, and we're going to analyze it as we go forward.
I mean, Dr. Vassan, he did call it a public health hazard, right? Yes. I mean, at least social media, and what's the gateway to social media? Smartphones, and that's how they access it. So what about smart watches? Because a lot of parents say, okay, this is another way around it. We can still communicate, but they're not necessarily going to be on Instagram. Sure. And I know that your kids have the Gizmo.
Right, the Gizmo watch, where they can call us a certain number of people. They do exercise that option often. They will call in the other room.
My kids are still too young for any of that.
But
my
that's a good point.
Is 7.
That's a great point with the smartwatches. Yeah.
Well, it's not just the smartwatches. We've got kids who've got the glasses now that do a lot of. I'm telling you, the kids are ingenious. And they figure out ways around these things. That's why we said, the mayor has said, let's take this year. Let's look at the various ways in which our schools are doing this. Some of our schools are actually putting them in pouches and letting the kids keep the phones with them, but they can't access it until the end of the day. Other schools are collecting the phones and putting them in lockers. There are a number of ways in which schools are approaching this, and it's all of the technology that they have and the various gadgets. So schools are doing it different ways. There's no one size that fits all. That's the reason why we said we're encouraging schools to engage in this process. There's no penalty for a school if they have decided that they're not going to do it, but they're hearing directly from the chancellor. We've done a lot of studying. We think it's worth engaging your parents, engaging your community, to take a look at this in very serious ways.
And just to kind of wrap at least this portion of the conversation up, that's kind of the way it is now, right? As far as there just isn't an overall directive from the DOE to say this is what we think. But schools right now can institute their own options when it comes to cell phones, correct?
Yeah, they can. And that's the reason why we've had over 300 schools that were already doing it in the first place. What they have not had is the chancellor to say, I'm strongly encouraging you to do this, that we're going to be paying attention to it. We're going to be studying it. We're going to be partnering with the city's health department to do full-on analysis of this. And I've spoken in the last several months to well over 1,000 principals, and I've heard very clearly directly from them. I've spoken to hundreds of students over the last several months, teachers. So we've been collecting a lot of data, and I think what we know now that we did not necessarily know a few years ago was just how harmful effect that these phones are actually having on our kids. So while I certainly appreciate some of the issues that we find when we see school shootings, I know that on a daily basis, our kids are having very negative effects on their bodies, on their minds, on their spirits. and being very seriously distracted from their studies in school.
It's true, and everything you're saying is evidence-based. I'm in the throes of reading the book, The Anxious Generation, which has made me anxious because of this great experiment that we did on our children, pretty much.
Well, I will tell you, we met with the author of that book as well, Jonathan Haidt, who's also a New York City public school parent. And he has studied this issue all across the nation. And the #1 recommendation that he made to us and to me, I spoke with him directly and his team, do everything you can to remove those cell phones. They are hurting our children.
Yes, he's very staunch about it. But obviously, it's very nuanced.
It is.
It is, and I think, you know, it starts with the parents, too. I mean,
That's right.
I'm just as guilty.
Right.
I've got the 2 phones here, so...
Speaking of the parents,
Yes.
we did reach out, and we did try to see if parents and caregivers could submit their questions to the Chancellor. He's here in this moment, and we did get something back.
That's right, and our first question really apropos for today, and it circles around security. A parent in Queens wants to know, when will all New York City public schools have front doors locked and IDs checked to enter the buildings? Chancellor?
That is a great question. This is something that we spoke about last year, and I'm pleased to report that well over 50% of our schools already have this door locking system in place. We started this last year. We will have every school in New York City completed by the end of this school year. So it's a huge system. We have over 1,600 schools, so it's a Herculean task. But what that is meant to do is to prevent intruders from getting into our schools, and it's another layer of safety. So well over 50% already.
Right.
We're well on our way. We'll complete the mission by the end of this school year.
You're starting with like the younger kids.
We started with all of our elementary schools.
Okay.
Yes. We're really well along with our elementary schools. Now we'll be moving more deeply into our middle and high schools.
I can tell you firsthand, I was inside PS 107 in Brooklyn today, and the school resource officer, they were running a tour of new parents through the building, and there was a line of parents, and some of the parents in the back were holding the door open for the stragglers who were coming in, and the school resource officer, super nice, but said, no. I let the people in, even if you're an adult, without the kids in there. So that process is well underway. So
Love it.
Happy to hear that.
That's the way it's supposed to work, Mike.
And I want to think about the screening measures when we think about safety and security. What are the screening measures? Is it just checking an idea of the ID check when you talk about ways to get into the building, what you need to do to enter these buildings to shore them up even more?
Well, listen, anyone who's entering our buildings has to present their ID. They have to express the purpose for which they're in school. It's not meant as a way to keep parents out. We certainly encourage all of our parents to come, but it is designed to ensure that no one is in the building who is not supposed to be in the building. And that's the #1 thing that parents care about, is the safety of their child. And so, so we work really hard. All of our school safety agents, they're the first point of contact in any one of our schools. And they are professional, they've been trained, and they really put it on the front line and deal with any intruders who may seek to try to enter our schools. So shout out to all of our school safety agents, but it's not just them. It's our principals, it's our administrators, it's our teachers, it's our school aides, our parents. They all play a role in keeping our kids safe.
All right, so security, cell phones, class size. Can we talk about that next? I know that that's something that has been a main focus of yours,
Sure.
to get the class sizes down greatly. We do have statistics behind that.
No, it's a mandate. You and I talked about it last week, and we had a little bit of that discussion over the weekend on Up Close. This mandate from the state from 2023 to 2028 to shrink the class size, shrink the number of students. It's a Herculean effort. And for some background note on where the progress is, here's Eyewitness News reporter Lauren Glassberg.
Jennifer Brown has a list of supplies she's sourcing for her classroom at Brownsville Academy High School.
Trying to get a lot of posters.
It's an alternative school for students who had dropped out. Her classes tend to be small to ensure students succeed this time around.
My class size should average around 25 students.
And by 2028, 25 students will be the max for all high school classes in the city's public school system. A state law requires the Department of Education to reduce class sizes across the board, capping lower grades at 20 and 4th to 8th grades at 23.
It's just good practice. And the sooner we can do it, the sooner that we're going to be able to make better outcomes for kids.
Class size reduction right now.
Last November, the president of the teachers union said the DOE was dragging its feet in reducing class sizes, but a new amendment to the law clearly compels the DOE to hit class size targets.
The state is sending money specifically to cover the cost of lowering the class sizes for New York City. So that language, once it went into the law and was passed, the city became more receptive to working with us.
40% of classrooms are now in compliance, and Michael Mulgrew is hopeful about the future.
We've seen a change of mindset.
So it's a good start.
Yes, it is.
But the next few years will be challenging, according to the school's chancellor.
The way the law is actually written will require us to hire thousands more teachers and to open up thousands more classrooms, new facilities at a pace that currently we do not have all the resources that would be needed for us to do that.
This September, 9 new schools are opening, like MS 644 in the Bronx. But scores more will be needed, along with thousands of teachers. And finding qualified teachers may be the biggest hurdle, according to Sherry Fensali, an education policy researcher.
There'll be a lot of new teachers coming in, teachers coming in on alternative certification routes, or teachers with little experience. And so you think about what the implication of that might be in terms of the quality of education.
But a starting salary of $72,000 sweetened with smaller class sizes may help attract qualified teaching candidates. It's that more personal approach that inspires Jennifer Brown to return to the classroom each September.
My students have told me, Ms. Brown, we could not have gotten our high school diploma, and we could not be looking towards going to college if you didn't give the personal attention that you always were able to give.
And while the DOE is trying to reduce class sizes, it also wants to grow the student body. Enrollment, while up since last year, is still down by about 200,000 students since before the pandemic. But perhaps these smaller classes will entice families to send their children to New York City public schools. On the West Side, Lauren Glassberg, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Awesome report from Lauren. Thank you for that. Chancellor Banks, you heard Lauren say it about 40% of classrooms are in compliance. You said it too. How are you going to reach 100%? When will you do that, and how will you pay for it?
Well, our Deputy Chancellor, Dan Weisberg, I'm going to ask him to talk about it a little bit because he has been working on this issue from the very beginning. Dan, why don't you fill us in a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Chancellor, and thanks, Charlene. So, listen, this is one of these issues where everybody agrees. Everybody wants smaller class size. Yeah. Chancellor wants smaller class size. I do. Other deputy chancellors, our friends of the UFT and CSA. It's good for kids. It's good for staff. Parents are happier. This is something parents talk about all the time, is wanting smaller class size. Question is how you get there. Right. Yeah, and that's why your question is so good. So what do you need in order to reduce class size? You need three things. You need space. This is New York City. Right. Space is at a premium. Right. We have some schools that are bursting at the seams. You need teachers, and we don't just want to hire anybody off the street, as your report correctly pointed out. We want to get the best people who love kids, who are really skilled, so that's important. And you need money. You need funds. And so we do have some additional funds that are being allocated for this, and that money is actually already out there in schools. We have schools that have lowered class size this coming year with that money, but there's a long way to go between 40% where we are now and 100%, and that's going to require a lot of hard work.
So I posted this on my social media, and a good friend of mine, she's a teacher at a middle school in Queens, and she said, unfortunately, her class, she has 32 children in her class. So if we have an opportunity to speak to somebody like my friend who is a teacher in a class that size, what kind of hope can we give to her?
What's her name?
Kaylonda.
Kaylonda. So listen, the 32 is a lot, and you know, and that's why we're working really hard to bring down those numbers. It's part of the reason why that state law was put into place.
Yeah.
I'm paying very close attention to the places in the city which right now I know are really struggling with very significant class sizes. And 32 certainly sounds like that to me.
And they're middle schoolers.
And the middle school, which we know is middle school is always a handful.
Yeah.
So we certainly don't want anybody to have 32 middle school kids in their class. So help is on the way. We're working really hard at this. We're doing the best that we can. All of these answers won't be resolved overnight, but we're working together with our UFT partners, as you saw in the piece earlier, our UFT leadership and our state partners. So just hang in there. We'll continue to do the best we can.
Well, awesome. And to Kaylanda's point, before we put a button on the class size situation, with this mandate in 2028 that it has to be completed, what is the budget? Is roughly $40 billion, right? And some people may say, well, out of $40 billion, you can't find money to add space. You live the reality of it. It is a challenging thing to make those numbers work. But without state help, will you be able to achieve this mandate?
It's going to be a challenge. We're going to have tough decisions that we have to make. We brought a working group together, which put forward a number of recommendations. Just think about this. We're going to need to hire an additional 10,000 to 12,000 more teachers in order for us to be in full compliance. Now, think about that. There's a national teacher shortage. Where do you get an additional 10,000 to 12,000 teachers? Forget about how much money you have to pay for those teachers, but where do you find them without lowering the standards? Parents certainly don't want us to just grab a warm body off of the streets. No. So we still want high-quality teachers where it is a national teacher shortage. That's a challenge. We also have significant class sizes in some of our most popular schools around the city. And parents have said, don't put a cap on enrollment in those places as well. So, you know, there are a lot of things that people are saying don't do, but make sure you answer and resolve the issue. So we've got our work cut out for us, and we got to figure it out.
Okay. I'm no math whiz, but the math doesn't always add up.
The math is not always mathing, Mike. That's always part of the problem.
It's not always math. I like that. Well, when you talk about people like, you know, getting more Kaylandas into the system and all of that, certainly more students have joined the system. You mentioned enrollment is the highest it's been in 8 years, particularly when you think about the students who are living in temporary housing. A lot of them are migrant students. Some 40,000 joined the system, bringing the total up to 915,000 students as we begin a new school year tomorrow. How are you dealing with that? What are the challenges of dealing with these new families who are entering the system? And moving forward through this school year, what are you looking for to make sure that it is as seamless as possible?
We have brought in, since this crisis happened, over 40,000 students into our system. And we created something that we call Project Open Arms. And the person that has led that is our Deputy Chancellor, Melissa Ramos. And she's the best person to really talk to you about exactly what we're doing. Melissa?
Thank you. We're so proud of the work that we've done to welcome all of our students, our newest New Yorkers, as we affectionately refer to them. And really, this has been a coordinated effort across our sister agencies and intra-agency, and really thinking about all the ways that we need to welcome our students here. So getting them enrolled quickly, looking at resources, making sure that they have clothing and food. We work extremely closely with Department of Homeless Services, and our families have been amazing. We created these borough response teams where families just volunteer to support each other and do these massive clothing and resource drives. And so what we're most proud of is the fact that this was a moment where New Yorkers really showed up together to support our newest members.
But to that point, too, it is a big challenge, and it's really tough. And I think one of the things is we were having a previous discussion with the Chancellor, and I'd love for you to expand on it. So many of these families, maybe you don't understand if you're just kind of watching the headlines, but so many of these families say they get put into temporary housing in Brooklyn. And then that time runs out, and then now they're in the Bronx. That is incredibly difficult to keep them in the same school, no?
It is incredibly difficult, and luckily, under the leadership of our Deputy Chancellor, Emma Vadera, who oversees operations and makes all kinds of miracles, we have had close coordination with Office of Pupil Transportation. We have also worked very closely with our Students in Temporary Housing Office to make sure that we are finding when those students are getting those notices and there's movement. And so if the families are entitled to stay in their schools, and they are entitled to busing. Should they want to transfer, then our friends in the enrollment office make those transfers very, very quickly. So it really is just about keeping in close contact with the families and meeting their needs.
One more question about this and this particular need. When we talk about the parents, there is a language barrier. And how are they to help their children? Are there any language services for them, the parents?
Absolutely. Our Office of Language Access has so many opportunities for our families to be supported in multiple languages and over 200 languages. We also are very proud of some of the innovative things that we did when it came to bilingual teacher recruitment. We were looking for bilingual teachers, and we said, wow, there are these teachers who speak another language. They hold a license in bilingual education, and for whatever reason, they're not using that license. So we worked with our good friends at the UFT and at the state, and we created this incentive for teachers to use this secondary license. And if they found a position under that bilingual license, they would be granted automatic tenure, which is a huge win. There was also a little bit of an incentive bonus. So we were actually able to get, I think, over 400 teachers who qualified for that. So in addition to the language access services and the different language models available for families, we also recognize how important it is to have teachers who speak another language.
It really becomes a part of the family, the secondary family.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the migrant students either. I want to, what is the number? About 100,000 students who are unhoused or without a home in the system. And so how do you deal with the meal situation? I mean, just having that support system at school has to be tremendously important for these families. But Chancellor, I mean, that's a significant number when you think about the number of students in the system.
No, it is significant. And when you talked about our $40 billion budget, a lot of it goes to making sure that our kids are getting healthy meals each and every day. And so it is a huge body of work. New York City is the largest school system in the nation by far.
Yeah.
And we've got students with lots of issues and challenge and families. But we've got officers that are dedicated to that work. And we wrap arms around all of those young people, no matter where they are coming from, no matter what the challenges that they're having. We do everything we can to meet those challenges.
So another big challenge, at least for parents, is making sure their kids are up to date with all their vaccines, their physicals, before they can even enter a public school building, right? And then over the summer, if you recall, there was a big surge in COVID. So definitely wanted to get into a conversation about COVID and the latest protocol, you know, the guidance on vaccinations.
Yep. And you want to speak to a little bit?
Yeah.
Sure. So, I mean, the policy on vaccinations is actually the same. And so students have a short period of time where they have to get vaccinated, fully vaccinated, and present the proof of that to their schools in order to continue to attend. The good news is we have very, very high rates of compliance with that, and that's true across all of our students, whether they're newcomer students, whether they've been in New York City for generations. And for COVID, you're right, the guidance has changed. It's made it, frankly, a little bit easier. So, when students are no longer symptomatic, or staff. You know, we came in 2022 in the throes, in the height of the Omicron surge, which we all remember here. That was a tough time. We were able to keep schools open every single day, even during snowstorms. And that's because we have the most amazing talent in our workforce in the entire country. And so we've been through, unfortunately, a lot worse than what we're seeing now with COVID, the flu, with other viruses, and our school staff really know what to do. So hopefully we will see students and staff this year needing to be absent a lot less than we've seen in previous years.
Is there a good, like, healthy reminder for parents in terms of, like, when not to send your kid to school?
Yes, and listen, our Office of School Health, you know, we've got nurses in all of our schools, but we have a whole Office of School Health which spends a lot of time on education. And that's right.
It's a big
part.
You know,
you get it both ways. You don't want kids to be at home when they don't need to be at home.
Right.
On the other hand, you don't want kids or staff, our staff is so dedicated, you don't want them showing up and infecting other people when they're symptomatic. So we have lots of reminders that go out to parents all the time. And we get a lot of questions from parents. This is why having nurses in schools is so important.
And when they come back after they've had a COVID diagnosis, they're asymptomatic, do they still have to wear the mask? Or no mask. No mask policy. No. It's just more of a it's just common sense.
Well, it's common sense. It's making sure that if you do test positive for COVID, when you're symptomatic, you're staying home.
Right.
When the symptoms are gone for 24 hours, please come back to school.
Let's talk about some of the challenges that have existed in the system for years. Chancellor, I want to begin with you on this topic, because when you talk about the latest test scores, particularly with reading, because I know it's something really near and dear to your heart.
Sure.
You just launched New York City Reads, this initiative to teach kids how to read in a different way, in a more uniform way across the system.
Science of reading.
The science of reading, exactly. And when you look at the test scores this past test period,
right,
when you're evaluating everything, 3rd to 8th grade, only 49% showed proficiency in reading. K through 2 showed some improvement. Now, that's an ebb and flow to the numbers, not drastically off where they were.
Sure.
But it's still, it seems like half the kids are being left behind. How do you make up that in such a quick amount of time as we think about just all the problems? You know what I mean?
Sure.
So let's, actually, a parent from the Bronx hit this point. Claudine is thinking about what I'm thinking. And Chancellor Banks, she wants to know, what plans do you have in place for these kids at middle and high schools who cannot read, who were left behind, and now they're in middle and high school, and they're trying to play catch-up?
Well, first of all, we're not leaving anybody behind. When I became chancellor, this became probably the biggest focus that we have had. That's the reason why we put NYC Reads into place. We've had the heaviest focus on our early childhood and our elementary age students, because we had to really kind of plug the dam, if you will. It's a reason why if you're not reading by the 3rd grade, you're fighting an uphill battle. So we really wanted to make sure that we were doing that. And that's not always going to be represented in test scores immediately. You have to remember, we only rolled this out with less than half of our school districts last year. Starting tomorrow, it will be rolled out into every school district across the city, including all of our early childhood programs. You will see significant change over the next several years. It takes a while. We watch states like Tennessee and Mississippi, who've done exactly what we're doing, have shown dramatic improvement. But with respect to our older students, our Deputy Chancellor, Dr. Rux, has really spent a lot of time in that area as well. Dr. Rux?
Yeah, that's a question that we get asked a lot, because the emphasis has been on K through 5. However, we have what's called literacy hubs in 11 of our districts, and that's 55 schools, where we have teachers who are engaged in deep professional learning, and they become lab sites for the rest of the district. So the middle school teachers can come in and see best practices, go back into their classrooms, and really put them into action. That is something that we are spending a lot of time on further developing, so that we can reach more middle schools across the system. We also have academic intervention support coordinators at every district. They're called our AIS folks, and they are really in the districts. They work on the superintendent's team, and they are there to look at data, to train the teachers and the people on the superintendent's team to go in and to really work on what is best for children. What are the intervention services that we can put in place? And we have implementation specialists who are also on the district team. One of the things that we've done this year that is going to give us really great impact is that we have downsized Central, and we have increased the number of people who are on superintendent teams. That means that we have the content experts on superintendent teams who can provide direct support to superintendents, to teachers, and to principals across the system.
And a follow-up to that, because we do have new families that are now in the system. Explain what New York City Reads is and how that does change the approach from what the years were past.
So I was a superintendent for some years, and one of the greatest challenges I had was the fact that every school in my district was using a different curriculum. That meant it was very hard for me as a superintendent to lead professional learning for my principals. You couldn't do it. I had to learn 10 different curriculum in one district. And what we've done now is there's a single curriculum for literacy in a district. So that means the superintendent really gets a chance to really dig deep, really understand the curriculum, the routines. Parents get an opportunity to really engage in the curriculum as well. And that has never been done before. New York City Reads provides a single curriculum, but it also provides intense professional development for teachers, for principals, for everyone on the district team, and job-embedded coaching. Never, ever. And tomorrow will be my 30th year in New York City Public Schools.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, let's give it up. 30 years. Okay. That has never happened before. So we are doing something that has historically never done before, and that we have data that is going to give us the impact in the long run.
And that's tremendous, too, especially when you're discussing students moving different schools. If they're learning the same way at one school, at another school, hopefully there won't be as much of a bump in the road.
You got it.
Oh,
That's our hope.
I mean, and it
Happy
reminds me
anniversary,
of
by
that
the way.
time you and I in Harlem
Yes.
at that elementary school where we saw kindergartners reading.
That's right.
And the biggest thing for you was how do we build confidence in the older kids who are having struggles and difficulties reading?
That's right.
What I was wondering and curious about is a lot of times those older children that are having trouble with reading, what's happening at home? Are the parents proficient readers? Like, is this like a cycle? And how do we, what's the outreach for that type of need?
Right. No, we're doing a lot of work with our parents and our family and community engagement team, what we call our FACE team, have spent quite a bit of time focusing on our parents and providing our parents the supports so that they can play a major role in connecting with their kids around the best ways for our kids to read and to become confident readers and confident students. So you really can't do this without having our parents as partners with us. Right. It's a huge part of what we believe in, and I'm just very thankful to my team who really focuses on our parent engagement.
Well, we mentioned one new program, New York City Reads, entering its second year as we look at how that progress is going to go. But also a new program launches this fall, and it's to teach students about the contributions of the history of Black Americans.
Yes, this curriculum is going to be taught in just a few schools at first, but the DOE plans to expand it in the future.
And this pilot program could really serve as a model for school systems across the country. Eyewitness News reporter Crystal Cranmore shows us how it all works.
When you know you come from greatness, you walk on that path.
A groundbreaking new curriculum comes to New York City public schools. After 3 years of development, Black Studies as the study of the world is ready to roll out citywide from preschool to 12th grade. Students will get expanded access to the contributions of people from African descent from around the world.
This is something I think that's going to be amazing for all of the children in New York City public schools, and having a more fuller, comprehensive, inclusive curriculum that really reflects all of the individuals who have made contributions to this country and help to explain, I think, some of the social challenges that we still experience today.
Research shows a surge in book bans and the elimination of AP African American Studies and critical race theory courses in schools. According to the nonprofit organization PEN America, more than 4,000 books have been banned across 23 states and 52 public school districts. Dr. Sonia Douglas says this new curriculum may raise questions about what this means for students.
That it's really a corrective to a curriculum that has only emphasized a particular set of experiences.
So what does the program look like? Kingdoms and Queendoms of Africa, African American political leadership, and Black New Yorkers.
We use vehicles like collaborative conversation and researching and analyzing and looking at nonfiction. So it's not like we're doing anything different. We're just blending it into some of the good practices that we already have in our building.
The new curriculum is the result of collaborative efforts from educators at Teachers College, Columbia University, the New York City Council, and New York City Public Schools.
I think this is a major paradigm shift in terms of how we think about the type of content that we're putting in front of young students. It's an idea that's long overdue, but we're excited to be a part of history.
I'm excited to see their excitement. I'm excited to see, what they're going to do with this information because, my kids manifest greatness every day.
Crystal Cranmore, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Oh, looks like such a terrific program. I love the teacher in there, too. You can tell just so passionate behind it.
It's awesome.
So what are the expectations and what is the hope? Because when you talk about being a model for the rest of the country, this is something that New York City does a lot, right? Lead the way on things like this, particularly with the schools. So what is the hope with this?
First of all, that new curriculum is part of something that we call our hidden voices. And that is to lift up curricula offerings that, most of our students have not been exposed to before. And so I'm particularly excited about this. It's something I really leaned into as an African-American man, knowing that a school system that has so many, Black students, and yet many of them could go through kindergarten through 12th grade and never get any exposure to the richness of Black history. And so to be able to have a Black Studies program is something I take particular pride in. But it's larger than that. We've already rolled out curricula for the Asian American Pacific Islander community, for the LGBTQ community. And we've got new curricula that's coming out to deal with Muslims and Jewish heritage. You know, one of the reasons why we see so much strife and people who just don't get along is because they don't understand each other. And so we have to ensure that you don't look at somebody else and see the other. The way that you get past that, you have to educate, you have to expose. That's what all of these curricular offerings are all about, and I'm really excited about it.
Especially in New York, which is a melting
pot. The whole world lives in New York. The whole world lives here.
We have another question from a parent that we wanted to share. This is Thomas in Manhattan, and he says he would like to know about the civics curriculum and whether it could become a full-term class like history, English, and math. How about that, civics?
Well, we do a lot of stuff in civics. We're trying to do more. Dr. Rux might want to talk a little bit about what we're already doing in that space, but particularly in light of the challenges that we're seeing all around the country and around the world, teaching kids more about civics is really important.
Yes, an election year.
An election year, yes, you're right. So right now we have Civics for All, which is launched in 30 of our districts. We only have 32 districts, so that's just about all of our districts are deeply engaged in Civics for All. It provides professional development to the teachers and to the principals at those schools. We also have something that is hot off the press. We have 165 schools that are part of a Civics for All seal. And that means that our high school students, when they graduate, they will have a seal on their high school diploma that says that they've engaged with our curriculum, that says that they have engaged in civic learning, that they have engaged in community service in their district, in their community, and that is something to celebrate, right? That we have 165 schools of our high schools who are preparing our students to have that type of education, right? So when they leave us, they know about their community, they know about the world, they know how to vote, they know what the process is, how to fill out their application, they know what government, how governments are organized. That is something that I am extremely proud of, and it's a rolling application process. So I imagine after this preview, we will have a whole lot more schools that will be completing the application so they can be a part of it.
So this is something that is really, really, really important. So we still have a long way to go, but we're leaning into this space. Millions of Americans do not vote. And they don't vote because we don't build that muscle in our early grades so that they understand the importance of voting and how it affects their lives. So we're leaning into the space, have a lot more work to do, but we're excited about where we're heading.
That is exciting. I mean, it could be the future chancellor in one of these classrooms or something like that.
There is. There is.
That's the thing. Let's talk about something that's so important to everybody who is dealing with the education system, and that is mental health for kids. Mental health is health care, and I think we're finally, slowly, as a country, starting to understand that.
It is.
It's such an important topic.
So important.
And here are some facts dealing with mental health in the DOE. 1 in 5 children struggle, or at some point in their life will struggle, with their mental health. Think about that. That is staggering, right?
It is. And then half of all mental health and substance use conditions start before the age of 14. That is so young for a young, developing brain. And then approximately 1 in 5 students who could benefit from additional mental health support doesn't get it.
You can't learn if you're not in the right space mentally. And so, Chancellor, what do you do if you're a parent and you're seeing your child struggle and you think maybe it's because of your 12, 13, whatever the age may be, but then you start to think, okay, maybe it's something that needs more attention. As a chancellor, how much does this play a role in how you assess how these kids are progressing?
Listen, this is Exhibit A also on why we're talking about restricting cell phones, because the cell phones play a huge role in cyberbullying, how kids are even seeing themselves, a high rate of suicide ideation. There are so many negative things that are affected by the phones, but it's beyond the phones, right? There are lots of issues which factor into how kids see themselves. That's one of the reasons why we've got over 5,000 social workers and counselors in our schools. It's one of the reasons why we have hundreds of mental health clinics, school-based mental health clinics, together with hundreds more mental health community-based organizations that we partner with as well. We need to provide as many levels of support for our kids as we possibly can. But I will tell you, the greatest level of support is the relationship that kids have with their teachers in their school. When you're not allowed to slip through the cracks. And somebody knows by looking at you every single day, they can look you in the eyes and they know that something is going on. And they engage your families. If we need to bring other professionals into the space, we do that as well. So, you know, our kids are wonderful. They're brilliant. They have so much promise. And sometimes in their journey along the way, they can run into real challenge. And it is our job to make sure that we're plugging the gap and making sure that we're standing in there for them.
Yeah.
We do that, and that's another reason why we can't do it without their parents and their families being fully engaged.
That was the question that we were going to ask next, because, I mean, it is such a challenging thing, and a lot of parents don't even know what to do and how to handle it when they think that their child is in crisis. So what kind of advice would you give parents, because it does take a village?
Well, I will tell you, we're also joined by Christina Foti, who really, she's our newest deputy chancellor, who heads a brand new division that we've created. She also has to deal with a lot of these issues, but a particular focus on kids with special needs and how she engages with their parents. Christina, you want to just talk a little bit about what you do?
I would love to. So our division is all about access. It's all about inclusivity and how do we ensure that kids who have historically struggled thrive in our schools. And that includes inclusivity as it relates to neurodiversity and special education needs. That includes inclusivity as it relates to language access. And look, New York City, as we started to say, is one of the most diverse cities in the world, right? And if you look at the number of students that have IEPs or individual education plans, disabilities, and the number of students that are multilingual learners, that group encompasses 1/3 of our school system.
Wow.
And so that's why our administration is focusing on increasing programs. Autism is our fastest growing disability classification, so we are ramping up our autism
Is that because
supports.
it's just being spotted more? It's being diagnosed more?
Both of those things. It is true it's on the rise nationally. Our screening tools are much, much better. You know, when you go to your pediatrician, you are asked, you have an autism screening as a norm. It is also that we're seeing a significant number of speech and language delays because of COVID. So we are ramping up our autism programs. Many of those programs are our kids with disabilities are outpacing their general education peers with 96% graduation rate. And we are also upping our bilingual programs, right? That we certainly need more of that in our city. And as Melissa mentioned earlier, that comes with our bilingual teachers that are highly qualified and ensuring that kids have access to curriculum in their language.
When you describe the resources and access, it is something that is certainly important, and so many parents have that question out there. And it is one thing, too, when you think about what parents can do, it does take home, school, the central area to make that happen. And you know, it's something that the conversation continues. And so I do want to go back to the Chancellor, because I want to show you some video of your recent visit to PS 644, where we had a conversation last week. This is this new school in the Bronx with the dual language program. It has that new school smell. And so it is terrific. And it's nice right there in the middle of the neighborhood in the Bronx. High Bridge section, I believe. That's right. And just describe your conversations with the parents and what they are looking forward to as they begin a new school year tomorrow. And before you get to that, let's hear a little bit about how this event went, as you were able to meet some of these parents who are going to send their kids tomorrow morning.
I'm excited about the teachers, the new curriculum. I'm excited that she's getting to learn new languages, and she gets to learn how to do like debating, and she gets to make new friends.
Most excited about my son starting a brand new school. It looks beautiful. Watch this from being a garage to now a full-blown school. Excited for him to meet new friends and just, you know, enjoy middle school.
They have so many activities, extracurricular activities to keep these young children, you know, grounded, because these little boys being locked in, these little young girls being locked in the classrooms for hours and hours on time. They need the time to get out. They got music, they got, you know, this, they got that. They have so many things to keep them engaged and active.
And Chancellor Banks, I just have to say, when you're in that building, you do sense that it is a point of optimism, not just for school students and school families, but for the neighborhood.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, the rebirth of a school year, the start of a new school year is almost like a rebirth. So we're all really, really excited about it. But when you get an opportunity to go to a brand new school in a brand new building with that new school smell, there is nothing like it. And when you see the kids walking for the first time, and it is, But the message that I had really for the kids and their parents, I said to the kids, you are the first students to ever step foot into this brand new facility. So you are trailblazers, and you have to take care of this place. And you have to be worthy of a brand new facility. What that means is to be a leader, because school is not just buildings. School is a culture of connectivity and love and education. And so to be able to do that in a brand new space with all the amenities is wonderful. And it says to kids, we love you, we care about you, you matter, and you matter deeply. And my message to the parents was to stay involved, stay engaged, stay active. Don't let this be the last time that we see you at the school. So show up and show up regularly. We do this thing that we call school really well when we're all working together. Not just simply looking at the principal and saying, what are you going to do? And certainly not just looking at the chancellor and saying, what are you going to do? But to say, what are we all going to do by working together? These children belong to all of us, and we have a responsibility to each and every one of them.
Absolutely. We have another parent question, which I think might actually be my cousin, because that's how you spell her name, and she lives in Queens. But Shelly in Queens is asking a question here. How are you addressing the shortage of service providers, behavioral specialists, speech teachers, occupational therapists, et cetera, needed by District 75 students with autism?
And I think you were just touching on that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Charlene, she's got a lot of cousins.
A lot of Shelly in Queens. This is a great question from Shelly. And in District 75, our students do have the most significant challenges. And so that is certainly where we need to focus our efforts in terms of hiring providers such as speech therapists, occupational therapists. Each year we hire hundreds of providers, and that's amidst the national shortage of providers. But we work on providing bilingual incentives, tuition assistance programs, and we're doing all that we can on the recruitment front. I'm really proud to say our service provision in K-12 programs is actually above 95% on related service front. That is significant improvement and the highest we've ever been.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Such great work. Let's highlight some important upcoming days on the school calendar. Of course, tomorrow is the first day of school.
Wait,
Big
what?
deal.
Yes, tomorrow the summer is over and it's ready for another exciting school opportunity. You'll have an opportunity to talk to your teacher. Evening parent-teacher conferences will be scheduled by your child's grade. Conferences for elementary and pre-K will be September 12th. For middle and District 75 that we were just talking about, that's September 19th. And for high schools K through 12 and 6 through 12, the conferences will be September 26th.
Busy, busy. And looking at the big breaks coming up, we got winter recess, which will be December 24th through January 1st. We know we're looking forward to that. Midwinter recess, February 17th to the 21st. And then spring recess will be April 14th through April 18th.
And on Thursday, June 26th, school is out for the summer. So maybe...
No, that's what they're really looking forward to.
You are already circling June 26th. And parents are thinking, what am I going to do with the kids?
All over again.
All over again. As we finish up this conversation, Chancellor Banks, we appreciate the time from all the panelists, by the way. I know it's a super busy time, but it's such important information for the parents and all the caregivers out there. Chancellor Banks, if you could think back to that moment when you were standing outside of PS 161 in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, when you were getting ready to enter elementary school, and you were thinking about the first day jitters and what the process was going to be like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell a young David Banks about this journey you're about to embark on?
Wow, that's a great question. First of all, I would say that don't be despaired by the fact that you will not have that afro.
Where's the picture?
Cue the picture.
Yeah. Cue the picture. Yeah. Those were the days.
Wow.
Nice.
But I would tell you, I would say to little David, those are 4th and 5th grade pictures there, that life is going to present a wide range of issues and challenges, but life is also going to present a wide range of opportunities. And that life is a gift. Every single day is a gift. So take it, run with it, and that ultimately you are going to be in a position to help impact the lives of countless numbers of young people, to help them be able to achieve their hopes in their dreams. And there is nothing better than to be able to have that kind of a purpose-driven life. I've lived a purpose-driven life, and that's what I would tell young David, and that's what I tell all the young people who are entering our schools today. Your hopes and your dreams are before you. Get a good education, stay involved with school, make the best of it, and you're gonna have a great life.
And you are living proof of that.
And so are you.
Well,
and I appreciate you.
Right. Shout out to PS64.
In Queens.
Here we go.
Junior High School 210.
Come on.
With all the cousins.
Franklin K. Lane High School.
That's right.
I love that. And as we take a look back, now let's take a look forward, because this is all about the future and the kids. And in fact, we interviewed some kids around the city to figure out what they're most looking forward to.
Going into 8th grade is going to be a little bit hard, and it's going to be tough having to prepare for high school and everything, but I think hopefully I will get through it.
I'm just going to do better in my classes, I guess. I hope the school lunch is better this year.
My name is Adalia, and I'm going to 3rd grade.
How do you feel about going into 3rd grade?
Scared.
Why?
Because then I have to learn times, and then I don't really know times.
What I expect from the new school that I'm going to is that it should be I make new friends, and it's more like to show myself to people and to show who I really am and to focus on my work. It's going to be my first year in middle school, and I'm in a public school too. I think that it's going to be challenging. Also, it's going to be easy because I feel like I have my friends supporting me on my side. And I also think that if I try hard and if I study really hard, that I'll be able to succeed in life.
So
love that.
much hope.
Absolutely.
So much hope. A little bit of anxiety filled in there, you know.
Rooting for a better lunch. It's
Concerns about
all
lunch.
the emotion.
Always the lunch. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you. Thank you to ABC. We appreciate you.
Our distinguished panelists, we are wishing you the best of luck for this next school year.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's going to be a great year.
Our kids are very lucky to have you guys just pushing for them in every regard. It's a lot. It's the largest school district.
We're behind you. I mean, the kids are the future, as we talked about, Chancellor Banks. So on behalf of Eyewitness News, we appreciate you being here again. Thanks so much. Alongside Shirley Nalicott, I'm Mike Marza. For our entire team, wishing you nothing but the best this school year. Good luck, and we'll check in along the way.